What to look for in a publisher on the other side of the intro. Hi, I'm John Gilstrap, author of the Jonathan Grave Thriller series, and in this episode of A Writer's View of Writing and Publishing, we're going to talk about the process of selecting a publisher. How do you know a good one from a bad one? Now, in this case, we're going to talk exclusively about the so-called traditional publishing market as opposed to self-publishing, because if you're self-publishing, you're the publisher. So let's talk a little bit about what a publisher does. Authors create manuscripts, and then publishers turn manuscripts into books and get them out into the marketplace, into libraries and bookstores and the e-marketplace and internationally and everything else. That's what the publisher does. Now, publishers employ a staff of editors and publicists and cover artists and production designers and marketing people and salespeople. And their sole purpose is to bring books to the marketplace under the best circumstances, and hopefully you sell a whole bunch of books. Now, generally speaking, it's assumed that the larger the publishing house, the higher, the deeper the pockets, and therefore the more they can afford to spend in advances to the author. In other words, the assumption is that bigger publishers can pay bigger advances. Now, if you're not sure what an advance is, I did a whole video on that. It's called How Authors Get Paid. I'll link to it at the end of this video, and it will explain exactly how advances against royalties work and that sort of thing. Now, the question that you have to ask yourself as a first-time writer or as an early writer is, do you want to be, is it in your best interests to be part of a big publishing house? Writing is part of the entertainment business, and I would say 90% of the time, follow the money. I mean, entertainment business is all about the money, particularly in the movie side of things. But if you're trying to build a career, if you're not a one-off, if you're not trying to make a big splash and then move on, consider perhaps looking into a smaller press. And here's why. The so-called Big Five are actually they're publishers that have been acquired, famous name publishers that have been acquired by large corporations. And as such, they have become profit centers of a company that sells all kinds of stuff, not just books. So their responsibility, the Big Five's responsibility, is to have a return on investors' investments. Primarily. I mean, that's the primary goal of every major corporation, right? Which is not to say that the publishers and the editors and all of them within the Big Five, they're certainly passionate about what they do, else they wouldn't be in this line of work. But the corporate pressure to perform can be somewhat staggering. And that pressure is then translated down to every single book on their list, which then, of course, translates down to the authors. If you're a first-time author, if you're new in your career, and your book does not perform up to expectations, whatever that is, if the book does not perform up to expectations in one of the big publishers, that's going to be your fault. And I don't say that with any bitterness at all. This is the entertainment business, right? So it's always the artist who if an artistic product does not perform well, it's not because of the publisher, it's because of the author. And a bad sales record is one of those things that kind of feeds on itself. And chances are, I know a lot of authors whose careers have died after one or two books at the bigger publishers, and they just fizzled and died, and they weren't able to sell another book. We're talking good writers here. So consider the possibility that early in your career, a smaller publisher, one that has, by definition, they have to have passion in what they do, and they have to select their authors carefully, and they understand the business of nurturing an author's career. So if a smaller publisher is much more likely to select a property, a book, that they like because they like it and because they like the author, and then have a longer view of developing the author's career. Now, ultimately, it always comes down to sales, right? I mean, if you can't sell books, you're in the wrong line of work. But a smaller publisher may be the one to hold your hand more closely early in your career. Now, there's a downside to that too. Smaller publishers don't have the resources to get books in as many bookstores. Remember, publishing is a business. So they don't give away books to bookstores. The bookstores have to buy the books, but the bookstores can't afford to buy the books, so they have lines of credit. And it's much easier for a large publisher to extend a line of credit than it is for a smaller publisher to extend a line of credit. So as your career grows and you sell more and more books, there may be a time that you want to look into larger, more commercial publishers. You know, the University of Someplace Press, they don't expect to sell hundreds of thousands of books. In fact, if they sold hundreds of thousands of books, it may put them out of business because they've got bills they've got to pay too. So this is one of the reasons why having an agent is so important in this business. A good agent will know which editors at which publishing houses are best for you and help you choose accordingly. Because we're artists and we're sensitive and we're insecure, right? Because remember the first time you showed your manuscript to a stranger, right? I mean, how insecure were you then? You're confident in your abilities, but scared to death that other people aren't going to like it. So we bring these insecurities with us into the sales and marketing process. And I caution you not necessarily to jump at the first offer just because it's the first offer. You know, look into what a publisher is going to do for you. In these days, you know, you're going to have to do a lot of your own marketing. I don't care who you are. You have to do a good bit of your own marketing and social media and that sort of thing. But you can't get ARCs, advanced readers copies, into the hands of bookstores. You don't have a whole list of book reviewers that you can tap into and know that they're major market reviewers and will take care of you. Not every publishing house has a cadre of a rights department that if you sell your book to an American publisher and a French publisher is interested in it, a smaller publisher may or may not have the capability of reaching out to those smaller publishers or the foreign publishers and dealing with them. So there are a lot of moving parts, and this is why you want to have an agent. There's a couple of videos I've done, a couple episodes of this that I've done on agents as well. So that's it, the dream, right? The dream is to finish your book, sell your book, and then get it out to bookstores and libraries and go on and do it again. That's what living the dream is all about. So good luck on your journey. Please take care. Please keep reading. I'm John Gilstrap.